Welcome to AMTV. I'm Ethan.
And I'm Nick. There will be a Valentine's Day dance February 5th from 7 to 11 p.m. in the cafeteria. Buy your tickets in room 1507. Tickets will be $10 if you purchase early or $20 at the door. Money raised will help support the senior class prom fund. Remember, everyone is welcome.
If you still need to make up attendance recovery, there are still Saturday school options.
You can come to school on January 29th as well as February 5th.
For the January 29th, enter through the main door, and on February 5th, you'll need to enter on Welch.
Arrive by 7:50 a.m. with your charged Chromebook.
If you have any questions, please reach out to lindajojackson.fortworthisd.org. Attendance recovery special opportunity. Do you need attendance recovery for the fall semester? Do you need more than 16 hours that are available through the Saturday school? We have 4 hours after school available for you, but it is limited to 30 students per day. You have to sign up for it. You can use the QR code or the one outside Miss Jackson's room 1618 to sign up. Hurry, spots fill quickly.
Raiders, you're working hard to keep our campus clean. Please do your part by not littering and help make Southwest the place to see.
Your freshman success team would like to recognize the following freshmen for their hard work in class and showing leadership in the hallways with their peers.
Principal Engel nominated Davion Lee.
Mr. Cruz nominated Lila Maxey.
Freshman success coach Miss C nominated Queen Tucker.
Mr. DeMont nominated Balkis Padilla.
And Miss Sawney nominated James Wall.
Thank you to these students for making Southwest the place to be, and keep up the good work.
Did you know boys and men can be victims of sex traffickers? LGBTQ boys and young men are seen as particularly vulnerable to trafficking, according to Polaris, the organization that operates the National Human Trafficking Hotline. According to a 2008 study, the commercial sexual exploitation of children in New York City estimated that as high as 50% of commercially sexually exploited children in the U.S. are boys. Stay true to yourself, and no trafficking of boys is not okay.
Hi, I'm Taylor, and I'm with an organization called United Against Human Trafficking. We are a nonprofit that works in the greater Houston area to educate the community about what human trafficking is, as well as identify and respond to situations of human trafficking. I'm bringing this video to you today because I want to talk about 5 myths about male trafficking victims. Before I do that, I want to talk about what human trafficking is. So human trafficking, for those of you who don't know, is when force, fraud, or coercion are used in order to get somebody to either do work or to participate in what's called commercial sex. Commercial sex is a sex act in exchange for something of value. Typically, we think of money, but it also could include safety, a place to sleep, clothes, or food, things that could be considered of value. I think it's really important to talk about what human trafficking is before we try to talk about the myths and the stereotypes that surround human trafficking, because there are a lot of them. Which brings me to myth number 1. Human trafficking always occurs, or most of the time occurs, because of a kidnapping or violence. Traffickers also target strangers, and I think this just isn't true. The overwhelming majority of people who are trafficked know their trafficker personally. And this brings me to myth number 2. Males cannot be exploited for sex. Males are typically thought of as labor trafficking victims, and society doesn't see males as victims. And I want to come back to myth number 1 for a second. If it isn't a kidnapping and violence isn't used to get them to do those things, then how does it happen? And I think there are a lot of factors that could put someone at risk for being trafficked. So that could be problems with income, a dysfunctional family environment, childhood sexual abuse or domestic abuse. If someone's LGBTQ+, that puts them at higher risk. Alcohol and drug abuse, the list goes on and on and on. And I think those are things that we have to think about as far as how does this happen to not only males, but human trafficking victims. The third myth is that you can use violence, or you can fight off your trafficker, or when they're sleeping, you can escape your situation. And I hear this a lot from the young people that we work with, is why don't you just run, or why don't you just get rid of them? And you have to realize traffickers use force, fraud, and coercion to get their victims in those situations. And what that could look like is themselves, the victims' families, or people that they care about might be threatened with violence. In addition to that, if someone does leave a situation or they get out, they might not know that there are resources that they can access that can help them whenever they are trying to get back into normal routines and get back into their normal lifestyles. And even if they are aware, they might not know how to access those things. So that's what we really want to think about as far as why people don't just use violence or just run or just get away. Also, relationships with their support systems are severed by the trafficker because the trafficker wants the victim to rely on just the trafficker for all of their needs. So if those support systems aren't there for them whenever they leave the situation, or if they're not as strong as they once were, that can be really difficult for them to navigate. Myth number 4, male sexual exploitation victims just must be gay, or that they enjoyed what happened to them. I remember I was at a conference last year, and one of the speakers was a male survivor of childhood sexual abuse, and he tells the story of he told his dad what happened several years after, and they go to the police, and then the investigator's talking to him, and he asks him, well, did you like it? And he didn't know how to respond to that question. He was shocked and appalled that someone would even think to ask that question. And it's hurt a lot whenever you hear situations of female sexual abuse survivors coming forward, and the questions they're asked is, well, what were you wearing? How much did you have to drink that night? And if those are questions that people are asked when they come forward about this really traumatic experience that they had, that's going to be a really big deterrent for them to come forward in the future. It comes back to why it's so underreported, is because if someone's just going to question the sexuality of a male sexual exploitation victim instead of trying to get them help and figuring out what they need, then they're not going to want to get help. Finally, the last myth, number 5. All traffickers are males. When you mention males in human trafficking in the same sentence, it's assumed that the male plays the role of the trafficker. But this is kind of dangerous because it doesn't allow space for the fact that men and women can both be traffickers and can be trafficked. So those are my 5 myths. I really appreciate you stopping by today. And once again, I'm Taylor with United Against Human Trafficking. Bye.
Tomorrow, wear boots or cool socks to kick traffickers to the curb.
Be sure to follow Southwest Fort Worth ISD on all social media.
And subscribe to AMP Southwest on YouTube. Thanks for watching.